Back to school is busy enough. The last thing you need is shopping that makes it harder. Whether you're moving into a dorm, your first apartment, or just getting organized for the semester, Wayfair makes it easy to get everything you need in one place. Furniture, bedding, storage, decor, study essentials, all at prices you'll love, with fast shipping before move-in day. Get everything you need for back-to-school season. Shop Wayfair.com today.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Hello and welcome to the Sentimental Gardener podcast. This is not Cass Dowding, this is Chloe Foster. And today we're flipping the switch. I'm sitting down with the Sentimental Gardener herself, Cass Dowding. She's somewhat newish to the gardening world and brings with her an empathetic warmth that is endearing her to gardeners all over. Because gardening isn't just plants. It's an emotional expression, it's connection to people living and past, it's sharing knowledge and sharing plants themselves. Cass, welcome to the Sentimental Gardener podcast.
Thank you for having me.
My aim today is to not make you squirm.
Okay.
Because you haven't done that to any of us.
Oh.
So I hope you feel safe just now.
I do. Thank you. I feel like I'm in good hands.
Good. Just as I did when you interviewed me. So thank you.
It is weird though, sitting here without the questions and knowing what you're going to ask.
Yeah, I felt the same way when I sat down with you because I'm used to hosting the 3CR Gardening Show these days where I know what I'm going to ask generally. So, yeah, you do have to let go a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone that I've talked to has been so easy to talk to. So hopefully, I know that we're going to have that experience today. Yeah.
They've been really beautiful conversations to listen to. And as a gardener and a horticulturalist, you sort of don't realize, when it's all I've ever done, you sort of don't realize how emotionally and sentimentally you are connected to your plants and to your gardens, whether it's a garden that you maintain and someone pays you for it or your own or, a garden you grew up in. It's been really nice listening to the Sentimental Gardener stories for you drawing out that really warm and cuddly side of gardening. Because sometimes it's not, a rose thorn scratches you or your back gets thrown out or something. But there is so much warmth to the gardening world and it's lovely to hear you pull those stories out.
Thank you so much.
So we're going to follow a similar format today. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to ask you some of those same questions that you've been asking us. So I'm going to start off with your first question is what are your earliest memories of being in a garden or a green space?
My early memories are in my nan and pop's garden. So that's my mum and dad. And we grew up down the road from them. It's like a 5-minute drive. So I was over there a lot. Especially in the younger years up until I was 10 because Nan and Pop's place was like the convening place for all the cousins and that to come along to. There was always a birthday was always celebrated there with extended family. Christmas was like, you were either there Christmas lunch or dinner. And it's really interesting thinking back to those early memories because as a kid, the idea of space is so different to when you're an adult, like that perception, because it felt so big. And it was a big space. It was a 1/4 acre block on this steady slope and had this beautiful big front lawn that we would play cricket on after Christmas lunches because my pop was a professional cricket player.
Was he?
Yeah. So he was a spin bowler. And so I remember like that front, lawn, we were all taught as kids to like how to bat, but how to spin bowl, not just bowl.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Predecessor to Shane Warne.
Yeah. And like with a red cricket ball too, like not just these tennis balls. No, as kids, we'd always, and when you'd face.
That's really hardcore actually.
Yeah. And when you'd face Pop, he wouldn't go easy. So, the front garden, the front lawn was a big, big place where we'd play as kids, and it was always we were always playing 40-40 or hide and seek. So the garden around that was made by my nan. And I have specific memories because I've discovered a photographic memory. So I can pull up that picture of their front garden at the time and I can see lilies and I can see the rose arbor and I can see where the violets were. In their backyard was this little greenery area, I remember, and I was always fascinated by it. Like it felt like, it was green shade cloth really with, elk horns and ferns and things and on propagating that my nan was doing. Specific memories of that garden though were things like the edible plants. So, but really peculiar plants that, like, I remember my nan saying to me one day, I remember this feathery plant on the way from the house to the garage, and she picking a bit and saying, "Hey, taste this. It's licorice flavor." And we're like, "Oh, whatever,"
Yeah.
And then you eat it and you're like, "Oh," and now I know that to be fennel, but she didn't say it was fennel at the time. So that was fascinating. And so there was all these experiences and I remember she was really big into Australian natives, which I didn't know at the time, but since going on this journey of talking to people, I've since talked to my mum and she's told me more about Nan's garden. And a lot of it was Australian natives. And I remember, I think it's grevilleas, and she loved grevilleas, and she'd take out the flowers and she'd pull them apart and say, "Oh, this is what the birds eat from, and here you can eat the nectar and you can taste this." So she was into also using violets and creating iced violets to put on cakes and things like that. Borage flowers, she used to put borage flowers in our salads.
Yeah, gorgeous.
So that was a whole side of that garden it just held so much awe, and I thought it was magical.
Yeah.
And the fascinating thing is my nan was actually disabled. She had one leg that was shorter than the other, by 5 centimeters. So she always had a limp, was on crutches. And now I think about it, she had this, 1/4 of an acre block on a slope.
Yeah.
And she managed all of this gardening. Yeah, it's just fascinating now when I think about that. But she was definitely a collector.
Do you know where she got her plants from?
Yes, my mum told me that they used to go to all the nurseries. You know what I mean?
How
all the
good.
smaller nurseries. And
Well, that's all there would have been back then.
Yeah.
There was no big garden stores.
yeah, and it was the early days of Karenga. And a lot of people I heard since would come to my nan's house and take cuttings of things that she had there because it was just such a vast collection. So a lot of it I think was shared between friends and people.
How
Yeah.
nice. A lot of what you've described feels like a bit of a carbon copy of what my Nana and Pa's garden was like.
Yeah.
Were you thinking that when I was telling you about it?
Exactly.
How interesting.
Yeah.
How lucky are we
Yeah.
that we got that?
Yeah. And I think the garden was really hers. Well, she was more involved in it in the beginning. And then my pop became really invested into gardening. I think when I was around 10, he had a stroke and he couldn't walk and talk, and he was permanently paralyzed in one arm, but he eventually learned to walk and talk again. And I remember them saying he couldn't work anymore. So what's he going to do with his life? And he turned to gardening. It saved his life. So for him, the veggie garden was everything. So he had incredible veggies and vegetables. Yeah.
Oh, it's so special.
I know it is.
It's so similar to my story.
That's what when I was talking to you, I'm just I was listening to you, but seeing myself as a kid in my pop's garden.
Yeah.
And that whole thing, when you go over there, even towards the end of their lives, you couldn't go there and not come home with a bunch of rhubarb or lemons or figs or whatever was growing at the time. You just, you came home with stuff from the garden. So, yeah.
So special. Now, I want you to tell me about your work-life journey because it hasn't been straight. You've sort of come into gardening now through writing and you've got to know a number of different people in the sort of gardening world.
Yeah.
How have you got to where we're at today?
Okay.
Work and life.
All right. It is a very wiggly story.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and condense 30 years into a few minutes. All right. So setting out, I wanted to be a ballet dancer. And I know a lot of little girls say that, but my dream was to be a ballet dancer. And I got so close to becoming professional. I trained at the Australian Ballet School and did a lot of ballet classes and a lot of different other types of dance as well. But back in the 80s and the 90s, like that world, and still is so competitive, but, you know, you really had to be the best of the best. In Australia, there's only like a couple of companies where you get paid to do that for a job. You got the Australian Ballet Company, Western Australian Ballet Company, Queensland now. But yeah, there weren't as many opportunities. You know, we didn't have social media where you could see what the opportunities were overseas. So that dream for me didn't work out. I was so adamant I was going to be a ballerina or go into a company that I didn't even talk to a careers counselor at school because I was so arrogant that, no, I'm going to be a ballerina. Yeah, I was like headstrong. And people were like, oh, you got to have another option. I'm like, no, there is no plan B.
This is the story that you get from Hollywood celebrities, but their plan A worked out.
Yeah, no, my plan A didn't work out. And I had so much shame over that for the rest of my life. Yeah, it's really hard because I literally lived it from when I was 6 until when I was 19. When that all didn't work out for me, I said, okay, well, I've got that experience. How can I still work in the arts and dance industry? I know I've spent so much of my life at the physio. I will become a physio. But then, you know, you got to have really, really, really high scores. Just missed out on getting into physio first at uni.
Trainer.
So then the careers counselor's like, well, you know, you don't always have to take the direct path in the first course. You can, you know, always go in the side through a health sciences course. So I then went, I'll just stick with nursing and midwifery because maybe this is the thing I'm meant to do. You're just so young at the time. You're like, oh, this is the thing I'm meant to do.
Yeah, you think it's going to be one thing.
One thing.
Yeah.
And so I did that, finished, and look, it was a great career. I worked all around Australia. I did my graduate year in the Northern Territory in Darwin.
Wow.
Yeah, which was great for this really sheltered, naive ballerina to go into a totally different culture and different state and just realize, wow, this is in our backyard. I was just so naive to it all. And yeah, it was a great opportunity to, travel. And you could always get a job anywhere. That is the great thing with nursing.
Totally.
Yeah, you can always get a job anywhere. And then I suppose to jump forward, I had kids. And so becoming a mum totally changed a lot of who I was as a person. It makes you like assess like, you know, what are you going to do with your life? What are you really here for? And I love being a mum. And so that was a big identity shift for me as well. And when I went to go back to my permanent position, I couldn't go back part-time with the hours I wanted through the organisation I was employed by. So I went, all right, I'm not going to go back to that role in that organisation. I will just go and work casually all around the place. And then COVID hit. And so the same time that COVID hit, my son started prep. And so COVID in Melbourne meant a really lengthy time of lockdown. And I took on the role. We
spent about 2 years locked in our houses.
Yeah. And so in that time, my husband was working from home. I had a child who was starting the first year of school and my daughter was in 4-year-old kinder.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah.
And being a healthcare worker at that time was just an insane level above of all the extras, the compliance code regulation stuff that you guys had to do.
Yeah.
Because I have family that are in healthcare and were actively working in healthcare then, and it was all the PPE and the suiting up that they would have to do before they went to see a patient. And people were giving birth and not being able to see their families or have partners with them in the birthing suites in some cases. It was insane.
Yeah, it's like what is ideal for women at the time, it was the opposite.
Yes. You need a village and the village was taken away.
Yeah, it was a really challenging time. So I've got to this point where I'm like, I'm trying to find a way through. Like, what does the future look like for me? There was one day I was lost and my husband said, what do you really want to do? Like maybe this is a point in time where you can take the time to say, like, do I really want to be doing this anymore?
Really good question.
Yeah. And what do you love doing? And I still can replay that moment.
What was the visual that popped up in your mind when he asked you that?
Oh, being outside in the garden.
Right.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I don't want to go back to nursing and midwifery. I want to be outside in the garden. And I don't know what that looked like, but it was just being around plants.
Yeah.
Because during COVID, I really got into gardening. Yeah. And that for me was something that grew alongside, I suppose, that journey of me not knowing what I wanted to do. But like you said, there was what was the feeling or the visual? Yep. Being outside in my backyard.
Yeah. That so many people had that feeling during those lockdowns. The horticulture industry could not keep up with plants. Like
really?
So many production nurseries that I know were out of stock for everything. I think they were allowed to have skeleton staff or they were allowed to continue working in some way from propagation up to dispatch, but they were out of stock. It was just nuts. So many people were gardening. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And that momentum has sort of continued since. So at some point between COVID and now, you've done social media and marketing. Is that what you did after this conversation with Tom?
Yes, after this conversation with Tom, I'm like, all right, plants, okay, what does that mean? I'd grown up and to become the thing, you got to do the course. And I tried to look at and I thought, well, if I work with plants, it means I have to have a horticultural degree. Okay. But really, well, I couldn't fit a horticultural degree in amongst the other responsibilities of life. And I was looking at online courses, but it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, you sort of got to have your hands on as well. I looked for so long. I looked at getting jobs in nurseries, but I'm like, yeah, but that's weekend work again. That doesn't fit with the way we've got our life arranged. So I couldn't work out how to make plants and gardens a job for me. So I benched it for a while and I went, what's a job I can do around being a mum? And a friend of mine was doing social media management and I'm like, oh, I like posting pretty pictures about plants. So maybe I can become that as a freelancer. So it's so crazy now thinking about it because I'm going to go do plants. I love this. And then I just went, oh, I'm going to go this way now, like 90 degrees. Yeah, so I did that. I went and learnt social media management, did that for people casually for a little while. But it got to a point where I'm like, it wasn't fulfilling something in me. I just felt like I was contributing to the noise, if that makes sense. But I really enjoyed sharing with people about things that people were doing. So from social media, I discovered that marketing is a lot bigger than social media. Like it's one spoke in the wheel.
Yeah.
So then I went, I like writing. Oh, there's a thing called copywriting. All right, I'll go learn how to do that. And that was great. And that was all about helping people through the decision-making process, understanding like empathy-driven marketing. And I loved that.
Did your healthcare background help with that component?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when especially with midwifery, so when you're working with women, they're in a mindset where their body is totally out of their control. They're quite often operating out of fear and you've got to be able to get through to them really quickly. And like the one thing I really, really, really remember from nursing is very early on they said like the most important thing is 3 words or 1 word 3 times, rapport, rapport, rapport. So you've got to be able to meet someone that you have know nothing about, get through to them, develop trust, and then be able to communicate in a way that they understand so that they can trust you, that you're there to look after them. So I think that was a huge...
That makes a lot of sense for what you're doing at the moment and sort of what I know of you.
Yep.
Because you do exactly that. So we've sort of reached the point where the Sentimental Gardener is probably of something that's blooming above your head. How and why?
Oh, well, I think why the Sentimental Gardener? And so getting to this Instagram thing that we were talking about before, I noticed that what I was sharing from my garden were plants that I had these connections to. And at the time as well, there was a lot of grief happening in my life. So I think what I see now is that these plants in my life were what I've discovered to be called transitional objects. So when someone has died, your brain struggles with that loss because it's like, well, what do I do now with all this love that I had for the person? And quite often we can put that attachment we had to the person on a thing. So it might be a blanket someone had, or, a photo frame, or it might be a piece of clothing. But I recognize for me, it was the plants that belonged to those people. And I don't know if this is jumping back a bit, but for me in that time, like my nan and pop passed away within 3 months of each other, which was really hard. I had little babies as well. So emotionally I'm, very vulnerable. And in the same space of time, my parents separated. And so I was just like in this full grief mode. I was like, yeah. And my nan and pop like second parents, really, the amount of time we spent with them. And I remember like after they passed away, I just had to go into their garden and I had to take cuttings of everything. And I didn't know how to take cuttings, but I searched online. And like they had all these roses. I just took all the rose cuttings. And some of them survived, some of them didn't. And then I just had to make sure that those plants kept living, if that made sense.
Yeah.
So when I was looking and understanding all of this, I'm like, oh, I'm like a sentimental gardener. If someone came to me and as I said before, I live in a rental, so I don't have control over a lot of the design of my garden. Like I can't rip up the back lawn. I'd love to.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
But but I would always talk to people about the story behind the plant that I was growing. And I'd be like, oh, this person gave me that, or this is growing because I got seeds from this person. And then COVID, I really got into seed collecting. Like I didn't want to pick the flowers to bring inside because I wanted to let them go to seed in the garden so I could collect them and keep the thing going. So I think that is when I realized, yeah, I'm a really sentimental gardener. And then I just changed the handle on my Instagram and called it that.
Going through that period of grief with losing your grandparents so close together that you were so close with, and then your parents separating as well, that is such a heavy time. Did a lot of people say this, that the garden, was a bit of respite, but did you go out into the garden to sort of put some of that aside or process or just to forget about what might have been going on?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was a way to get back to the here and now, because for me at the time my brain was everywhere.
Yeah, and little kids too.
And little
you would
kids.
Be completely fried.
Oh, that's a great way. Yeah, I went into really, really deep depression and struggled with anxiety, and anxiety where you catastrophize all the bad things that could happen. In the same space of time, a few years within that, Tom, my husband, got cancer.
Oh.
Yeah. So
as if you need anything else.
Yeah. And this was just at the end of COVID 2022, we ended up finding out that, and it takes like a good 6 weeks to diagnose when they think you've got something, that he had cancer. So 2022, a day before his 40th birthday, they said, really sorry to tell you this, but you've got cancer. And so then the next year, that was like, okay, so that looks like, all right, surgery, and then, all right, chemo.
So many appointments.
Recovery, so many appointments, and it just adds to that story of, yeah, there was so much stuff to deal with in those years. What role did the garden play? I wasn't actively out there, pulling weeds and things, but I watered the garden a lot, I remember. In the evenings, I think once kids were in bed, and I just in summer water the garden, and it was just
that's a very mindful thing to do in summer at
it's
night.
A mindful thing. And the other thing is our neighbour at the time, Trevor, he was out in the garden a lot. So it was great because I could go and just talk to him, and we would just, pull weeds, and he'd just talk over the fence and things like that. So yeah, I think during that time, I really hung on to those certain plants that were attached to those people. But also I didn't spend like a lot of time in the garden because everything else was so busy.
When did you start writing your Sentimental Gardener Substack?
I think it was 2 years ago. Yeah. And I was getting to a point where so I'd been doing some marketing, writing some content, and I love writing, but for me, writing was always a self-expression as well. And I think it was to help process what I was going through. I've always written in a diary or something to process what I was going
really?
through. Yeah, I've still got
Okay.
diaries from when I was like a kid.
I never had a diary or a journal when I was younger because I was always scared of putting my thoughts into it in case someone got it and like used it against me.
You know, for me, the way my brain works, I've always written to make sense. So that's when it started a few years ago. And as I said, this is a long story because there was so many twists and turns.
Yeah, there is.
And so I think started Substack, wrote about my nan, the violets. I wrote about my next door neighbour, Trevor, as I was saying before. So in this time, I was slowly discovering gardens more and more. And I went and visited Joe Ferguson's garden at an open garden.
Did you ever go to any open garden Victoria properties?
No.
Before Joe's? So was Joe sort of the first private garden that you went into?
The first private was actually Jack Semler's. And back in that time where I was like, do I go into horticulture? Do I go into marketing? I went and like asked a lot of people how they did it. So I asked Jack Semler. So she just said, yeah, come over. And I'd never seen so many plants in one space.
Yes, that's a good description of a garden.
Yeah, that maximalist planting.
Yes.
It changed my mind how I thought about gardens.
When you go to other people's gardens, what do you do? What do you feel?
Now knowing what I know about how designers think and the design process behind it, I think I just was looking at the aesthetic and whether or not I found something beautiful or not, if that made sense. But when I learnt about Jo Ferguson, I found out her design approach, which is she asks people questions about what resonated with them in spaces and their gardens as a child. And I just went, bing.
Yeah,
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
And she asks people like, can you remember a space where you felt really calm and what plants were involved? And for her husband, pollinators were really an important part of the garden he grew up in. So they needed to have lots of plants for pollinators. And when I understood that there was a depth to the design process, I went, ooh, I'd much rather talk to the gardener than look at the garden or understand that they actually work together. So yeah, when I started like learning about gardens, I found I was just as excited about the gardener's story of development or their life story or why they got into gardening that I started going, oh, I need to talk to these people, which led me to going back to Jo Ferguson's garden another time. So nearly a year later, Jo Ferguson on Instagram said, if you'd love to come see my garden, just DM me. And I'm like, really? And I'm getting to the point of how the Sentimental Gardener started. And I suppose we're getting to the crux now because I took my auntie with me to that garden tour with, I suppose it was a private tour with Jo. And the other thing that happened during that time, I forgot to mention, was a month before Tom got diagnosed with cancer, my auntie passed away from breast cancer.
Oh, mate.
Yeah, I know.
You've just had like a lifetime of loss within a couple of years.
Yeah.
That
it was nuts.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That is horrible.
Yeah. No wonder I thought everything bad was always going to happen. Yeah. So that auntie had passed away. Her sister, Fiona, is a gardener and a horticulturalist. And I had such an experience in Jo's garden at that first open day. I always said to my auntie, like, Fiona, you have to come see this garden with me. So I took her to that second time I went to Jo's garden. And it was really cool because my auntie Fiona, she worked at Heronswood Diggers like back in the 80s, 90s.
Yeah, cool.
So I grew up with the stories about my auntie planting out the garden with Clive and Penny and, you know, that was pretty cool. So I'm like, I'm going to take Auntie Fiona with me to Jo's garden. And we had a great time. Like it was this beautiful bonding time because obviously we've got that grief together for my other auntie and being in a garden together. It was just such a good connector. I got a friend that I knew from like kinder and primary school, and I'd shared about Jo's garden online. I think I wrote on Substack, and she said to me, "Oh my gosh, that's Mum and my favourite garden." And I said, "Oh," and she goes, "I'd love to go one day," ever since we saw Jo's garden on Gardening Australia.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, you can just ask her." And she's like, "Oh, really?" And so I texted Jo back. I'm like, "Oh, I've got this other friend that would love to come to your garden. Could we come?" And she's like, "Yeah." So they came with me to Jo's garden the second time. And we had this beautiful moment out in the front of her garden, all sitting around on chairs. And we were just in awe of her talking about the stories of the people that's gardens she designed. And there were these stories of transformation, like where she'd gone in to just design someone's garden, but how people were changed, like how her clients were changed through the process of being involved in the garden. And I had this moment, I'm like, these stories need to be told, Jo. And she's like, yeah, I should really get around to it. And I said, well, I can write them down, but, writing takes so long, and I had tried to share people's stories, but I never felt like their voice could authentically come through when I share them, if that made sense. So my friend's dad sat there and he goes, well, you can always just record them on a podcast. And I'm like, really?
Oh, yeah. Do it for it. Yeah.
And I'm like, could I? And then that stayed with me. And he's like, yeah, you should do it. And that is literally why I started the Sentimental Gardener podcast, just because we were in the garden talking about these experiences people had. And then someone suggested, well, maybe you should just start a podcast.
That's amazing. Jo has had a really big impact on this whole, the whole sentimentality of gardening. We, in classes, mainly in Cert 3 and 4 particular units that I teach, we look at different landscape designers, and we usually use the Gardening Australia My Garden Path stories where they've interviewed them. And there's 2 videos I usually start off with before we move into a whole heap of other designers and their different styles. And the first one we start with is a really, really formal garden. And we watch the video and have a chat about it. Do you like it? Do you not? Like what, anything resonated with you? And then I put on Jo's video, that same story, and everyone's just like, just a massive exhale. And watching it, we watched it just recently, a couple of weeks ago, and a student goes, oh my gosh, I would have never thought to put those sorts of how does a garden or how do you want your garden to make you feel, that emotional side of your garden. Never would have thought to put that into my client questionnaire, because one of the assessments that they have to do when you go into a garden, there's 2 things you do. You do a site assessment, and you get your client brief, and they have to come up with a set of questions to interview their client. What do you like? What do you don't like? How much have you got to spend? Hardscaping, softscaping, blah, blah. And they go, and this is, I've learned this too when we're having this conversation. They're like, I never thought to ask someone how they want the garden to make them feel, or when did you last feel really good or calm in a garden, all those sorts of things that Jo does. And they were just like, we're all just blown away by that point, because I've watched Jo's story on Gardening Australia so many times over the last few years in classes, and only this particular group or this particular student said that, that sentimental, emotional side of it.
And I've heard since talking and meeting more designers, I've heard other designers. Actually, it was someone who said to me after I wrote about Jo's garden and I mentioned a little bit about her process, they're like, oh, I didn't know that could be a thing, and I learned that from you. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's so awesome. And I think it is so important to have that feeling aspect, because you can feel it in her garden, and a lot of people who go there say that. And for me, I had what I've now discovered is like the whoosh moment. Fleur Flannery talked about it in a podcast I did with her. I described it as like something within inside me like cracked open. But I can still take myself back to the place where I walked around this corner, saw the back part of the garden, and it was this loud resonating noise within me that said like, this is what I have to do. And again, this was very vague, and I wish it was more like,
here's your process.
Here's your process, and this is what you're going to do. But for me, and it was just being in gardens or with gardens. And then the next step after that was like, you should do a podcast and document people's stories. So, yeah.
It's really beautiful. I really, really love, and it is so beautiful, the way that you see gardens.
Okay.
And like we sort of said earlier, I think your healthcare background comes in that. But there's just a natural empathy there that you have too as part of your character. Because I've only ever worked in horticulture, I will often go into a garden and all I see is all the stuff that needs to be done. Or a plant that I'm like, that's an environmental weed, it shouldn't be growing there. And I felt like this for a long time, that I just don't get a lot of those really wonderful feelings, because it's a bit of a job to me. And that's really bummed that I am trying these days to not do that. But having said that, I couldn't imagine working in any other industry. And I am still drawn out. I don't know where it comes from. I can't explain it, but I am still drawn out into nature. I prefer to exercise outside than go to a gym. I could not. I would have been able to buy a house 2 years before I did if I just wanted to get an apartment. But there is no way in hell that I wanted to live off the ground. But I'm still striving to get the feelings that you get in some of these spaces. But I think I might, but in a slightly different way. Or it's just, anyway.
So when you said about me, I've always been a highly sensitive person.
Yeah.
Even as a kid. Like, I was always told I was too sensitive. And so,
was it like it was a bad thing, or was it sort of fostered a little bit?
Thing.
I think I was a bit like that too.
Yeah. And I think that's where, for me, dance and art was a great way to express that thing that I never could have the words, and I never felt confident in expressing because it was too much for a lot of people. Yeah. And so now, knowing what I know, and, we're like, 42 versions of Cass later, came to a point in my life where I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this thing, like, how do I do it? And I could only do it with all the things that make me me. So I'm going to, it's going to be warm and fuzzy and full of feeling and full of reflection, and that be okay, because that's who I am.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I really feel like you've found a niche that is just like only you could do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what I was going to say before, because when you're like, when you go into a garden, see all these things, I feel like sometimes, I've had to struggle with the whole imposter syndrome because I don't have a horticultural background or certificate. And I go in and people start telling me like about their plants, and they start saying all these lap names or genus and species, and I just like, I nod and I'm making these mental notes like, I need to look that up later. So everybody has something to contribute in a certain way. I couldn't go teach at a TAFE course because we'd all be just, all about how we're feeling and things. But that's the beautiful thing, I think, is that there's room for everyone in all types. Like, we need those people who just love working in nurseries and propagating, and there's room for so many different types. You've got all the things to do with therapeutic horticulture, and we need people to be great teachers and pass on the knowledge so we keep it moving and going forward.
Yeah.
But thank you for that encouragement about what I've created. Because imposter syndrome is horrible.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I felt a little bit last week. I was listening to the 3CR Gardening Show. John Arnott had Russell Lark, Emmeline Bowman and Claire Farrell on there, and I was just sitting there in awe of those guys.
Yeah.
I was like, I know nothing compared to them.
Really?
Yeah. It was,
wow.
Man, like listening to those guys, I was like, holy moly.
Isn't that crazy? And you've written the book.
Yeah. Well,
and you've done 10 years of radio.
That's sort of my sort of imposter syndrome these days is, well, I just do the basic stuff. I don't do the advanced stuff anymore. I'm not capable of doing the advanced stuff anymore because I've gone down and really well covered myself in the basic stuff for too long.
Yeah, we do this to ourselves, don't we?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But can I just share one thing that was the best bit of advice I got that helped me move through that, or just moved forward with the imposter syndrome? Because there's so many great gardening podcasts out there, I will say that. And, I struggled with, who wants another gardening podcast? But then, no one says that to Taylor Swift when she writes another breakup song. How many breakup songs? But we love it.
Yeah.
And I suppose this is the Taylor Swift analogy too, that no one can argue with your own lived experience. You are the expert of your own lived experience. And that's where I come from. And that's what I give my guests. I'm like, you're here just to talk about your experience. You're not here to share how much you know.
Yeah.
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 And once I heard that, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a home gardener, but I'm passionate, but I'm going to live or, share from the place of being a home gardener, because we're buying the products that all these, companies sell, and we're buying the books, and we actually are an important part of the whole horticulture ecosystem as well. So yeah, that's how I got through that stage.
Yeah. And the way that I sort of get through it, and even talking to younger horticulturalists, Amy Downey and Pia Lefevre, is you bring, and this is how I counterbalance those horrid thoughts, is you bring you and your lived experience and the bit of stuff that you know. And something Roger Elliott said to me one day when I was really worried about being on radio with Stephen Ryan for the first time, because he's a walking encyclopedia. And Roger goes, just hold your ground. And I was like, oh. And that has served me in so many different aspects of mainly my professional life, but so many different ways.
Great advice.
Yeah, yeah. So you and I had a conversation earlier on this year at Karanga. You go, I'm thinking of starting a podcast. It didn't take you too long to get it up and running. It can take people a long time to do that. Once you were like, yeah, I'm doing this, you got onto it. And you sort of, the ball is sort of rolling now, I think. Do you feel like that?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I started in May. I think that was International Women's Day.
It was?
Yep. And I talked to you and then talked to AB, because I'm like, again, my research brain goes, okay, who can I talk to who's done all these things?
Well, you're so good at communicating. And like you just mentioned all these people, you just slide into their DMs.
I do.
It's great. Like have a shot. You're not scared of rejection in that way.
Well, I really am in a default, the way my brain works, but I have this incredibly supportive husband who comes alongside and he goes, what's the worst they're going to say? And I said, oh, they're going to say no. He goes, yeah. And no is no, but it doesn't have any weight to it. It just means go find someone else to talk to. And I'm like, so I'm so not scared of no anymore. Yeah. So I talked to you, talked to AB, and AB was so great. She was like, okay, just go for it. You don't have to know how to do it. Go for it. Hire the equipment if you need to, and then go for it. She basically
said the same thing to me when I said I wanted to write a book. And far be it from like me or her or anyone else to be like, that doesn't sound like a very good idea. That's your idea. Who are we to kill your creativity? If you want to do that, go for it.
Yeah. And just see if it works. And that for me was like, see if it works. So I just approached the first person that I knew who worked in the industry, which was Hayden Schuler, who does the hedge at the back of our house. So I'm like, well, could you be my first guest?
Has anything surprised you?
The whole thing. But what surprised me was how similar we all are, no matter what qualification you have or how many books you've written or how many gardens you've designed. Like we're all just like, funky humans dealing with our own insecurities or questioning if like what you're doing is right. And I think that's like so cool is that, that was surprising to me that some of these most accoladed humans are still struggling with the things that we struggle with. Yeah. What else? Oh, that I could do it. That surprised me. Yeah. But it also surprised me coming from an industry where nursing was great. It was very female orientated, the midwifery side of it, but it was very hierarchical. So you had your hospital system, and then, doctors, and then down to junior doctors, and nurses and midwives were quite far down the bottom. And this is very submersive stuff, with culture in healthcare. Coming into horticulture and these plant people, like people were just freely giving away their passion and their knowledge. Like people just wanted to share is what I was so surprised about. Yeah. And a lot of people wanted to share to the point where I had this big list of people to interview because I thought a lot would be no. And there was so many I had to say to some people, we might have to do you next year because,
well done.
I know. That sounds so terrible. But it obviously does take time to research, record, edit, put things out there.
Yeah, and you're not really getting paid to do this.
I don't get paid at all. No, that's self-funded.
Sponsors out there?
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. I'm so happy that I started without the financial side because then I could just be creative and make it my own. I think sometimes when you start out with trying to make money from the thing, it just adds another layer. That's
and another layer of pressure too.
Another pressure to have to get numbers. And
I
didn't look at numbers for only until a few months ago when someone was like, "Oh, how many listeners have you got?" And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
To be honest, I was happy with my KPI per episode was one person, but one person who really took something away or learned something from it. And if that happened or someone contacted me or left a message on Instagram that something resonated, I'm like, well, job done for that episode. Or that the guest felt seen and safe. Yeah.
Can say that I have felt seen and safe, so thank you. Have you had, how has the response been from people that you know and people that you don't know?
People love it. Yeah. And which has been so good. I get the best feedback from people I don't know, which is so great. And I've got regulars, which is so funny. I know.
How nice.
And it's a friend of mine and they're friends from school. We've got kids at the same school. And I will know that I'll put out an episode and this friend, Brendan, and his wife, Sarah Jane, Brendan's left corporate and gone to start his own garden maintenance business. And within a day of putting out an episode, he will always text and say, another great episode, Cass.
That's so, that is so nice.
It is.
And
it's
the best.
Yeah, it is so good.
Yeah. And to create something like this, especially based on, what's been going on in your life for the last, say, 5 to 6 years, it just adds so much more weight and meaning to it, I feel. I hope this resonates. This episode resonates with people. Yeah. It's lovely. All right. Let's move on to talking about your 3 sentimental plants.
Okay.
Where do you want to start?
All right. I'll start with the plant that's behind me at the moment.
Some lovely greenery here today, listeners.
Yeah. So this is a hibiscus. I always call it the seedling, but it's not really a seedling anymore.
No.
I think it's 3 or 4 years. It's a hibiscus tree. And this came from a seed that was on the hibiscus tree that my mum had. And I looked after that for her when the marriage fell apart. And so I looked after some of her plants here at my house. And she got the hibiscus tree from a cutting that used to be next door to the outside toilet at my nan and pop's house. So that it was apparently a ginormous tree. It was very prolific, which you could probably understand now why, because it was next door to the outdoor dunny, the old school outdoor dunny.
Bit of nutrient.
Yeah, but the memory there is that I lived at that house with my nan and pop, mum and dad up until I was 2. And it's a funny story. It was called the Tip House. And it's because my pop used to manage the Nunawading Tip at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. So they lived
Is it the same pop that played cricket?
Same pop that played cricket all these years later. So it's just a bit of this connection to this time of your life that there was this plant. And again, with an outdoor toilet, that feels ancient when you talk about it nowadays. You think in black and white. And it doesn't feel like your life. But yeah, the fact that plant is still alive. And when I got the seeds from my mum's tree, when I was looking after her tree, it was about this size as well. the flowers set to seed, and I just noticed the seed pod and I went, oh yeah, I should plant those. I didn't look up how to look after them, how to germinate. Like I just literally put them into like potting mix. And then one day I was out the side where I keep all the seedlings and stuff. I'm like, oh, they've germinated. Oh, there you go. Oh, and now I've got 4 of these.
Well done.
Yeah.
What colour flowers has it got?
Purple.
Lovely.
Yeah. Okay. The second sentimental plant is a rose called Buff Beauty.
I've never heard of this one before.
So the story behind this rose is I told the story before about when my nan and pop died. I had to go to their garden and had to take cuttings. They had lots of rose bushes and I just literally took cuttings, dipped them in the hormone powder and just stuck them all in the same pot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I didn't label. Yeah.
Oh,
Didn't,
not just one variety in the one pot.
No, multiple varieties in the
so
one
loose.
little pot. Yeah. I didn't know what I was doing. This is the only rose cutting that took out of all those rose cuttings. So I had no idea what it was going to turn into when it actually started growing. And then it did grow, it flowered, and I still had no idea what it was. And it's really hard sometimes to ID plants. And I think it's probably about 8 years old now, the plant. It's in the front yard. So I follow along a Substack and Instagrammer called Pip from the Garden at Moorfield, and she's really into roses. So one day I just posted to her community group. I'm like, does anyone know what this rose is?
Yeah, okay.
And then, I eventually found out what it was. So
That's really
so
cool.
exciting.
It's hard to, if you don't know the variety of a rose and it's an older one, it is hard to work out what it is.
Yeah, I couldn't work it out. And the thing with this rose is sometimes it's more peachy. Some years it's quite, white. And I'm like, so that really threw me. People are like, does it climb? And I'm like, I don't know, because I keep pruning it. And I've been learning as I go. It's still thriving. It lives in a pot. But yeah, that's a very special rose. And, it was really interesting. Once I found out what it was, I actually was happy to I almost let go of the attachment that I couldn't kill that plant because I knew what it was. So if I wanted to keep that memory alive with my nan and I could find a Buff Beauty somewhere.
So it's not necessarily the individual plant and its genetics.
Mm-hmm.
It's the actual variety.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm still working it out.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And maybe that's just the grief process through time as well. Like initially you're like, holding on for dear life with the memories and everything. And as grief moves through, you can learn to let go a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting because for a lot of people, their sentimental plants are the ones that have been passed down or they might have a plant that reminded them of their grandparent, but I feel like the connection isn't as strong if it's just one that was sort of a reminder.
Yeah. I think ideally I love that genetics connection.
Yeah. But it's nice that you've let go of that because, I've got some of my Nana's orchids and they're not dying, but I could treat them better than what I do.
Yeah.
And I'd be so bummed if I killed them. I'd be so bummed if I failed with that.
Yeah.
But with some,
I was trying to think when I started the Sentimental Gardener and I realised that I normally have a lot of photo frames around at home. But sometimes I think when your brain is used to seeing the same thing all the time, it doesn't stop and notice it because our brains don't like to have to work hard. The default is ease. So it's not having to look each time at things that it sees in the same place and the same thing. So I had photos of these, people I loved, but I wouldn't stop and look at them and go, oh, Nan or Pop. But when I would go outside and I see like my auntie who passed away, we've got her red geraniums, that really bright red. I go, oh, Elaine, and it doesn't matter how many times I'm looking at the plant or how long the plant's been in the garden, I still remember. And I wonder if it's to do with, our plants are always changing because, the geranium's not always in flower. But when it comes back into flower, I'm like, oh, it's that pop of memory.
Yeah.
Or when the roses come out again and they flower, I'm like, oh, that, Nan, and I remember the garden and it takes me back to that place. So I sit, I love to work out why things are the way they are, but I wonder if it is the constant change of plants throughout their life cycle.
Yeah, that does catch your
helps
eye.
to keep that memory alive, that catches your eye, that's more powerful than just a photo frame on the shelf.
Or in a way, sort of, this is deep, reflecting our human life in the way that it is constantly changing.
Oh my gosh. Like, I mean, I could talk the next hour about this
Yeah.
because a huge thing for me with the gardening was how life works in the garden compared to like sometimes our humanness. So, I mean, another part of my story is I grew up in organized religion, and a lot of people like, we just call it church, and I find it hard to share this sometimes because everyone has their own experiences. So I'm just sharing this from my experience. But I grew up with a way of understanding the wisdom of how life works through these stories that were passed on to me. And like I had to believe them. And, you have to hold on to those stories to be able to get to the thing at the end of your life. And I went through various times of my life where I let all of that go and I deconstructed all those stories and went, oh, this doesn't actually serve me and how I feel anymore as a human or an adult. And part of all of, and this comes up when you see your partner get told they might not live anymore, or you're actually, I was there when Nan passed away and was holding her hand, and you're confronted with the reality that we're not actually always going to be here. And when I go to the garden, I suppose this touches back to that, like, well, what was the garden for me at the time of all this grief and change? It was almost a witness of like what life is all about. Yeah, without all the stories and the rules that we put on top of it. And it taught me so much just by sitting there and observing, the fact that when a flower goes to seed, that it creates so much seed, like there's just an abundance of seed and potential and opportunity. And not all of those seeds are going to like germinate, but abundance is in all of it. The whole like cycle of life type of thing, continuity, companion planting, like the fact that was a huge thing for me and actually helped me with my business and feel not ick about marketing, because it was like actually companion plants work together and grow stronger together. So, I sort of was marketing myself as that for a while, like, being alongside people, helping people grow stronger in their business. And yeah, I won't go on too much about it, but I suppose it was that there is a spiritual side to the garden, but the garden for me is like a connector to nature. And a huge question I had, and because again, I'm super sensitive, go super deep. And I'm like, okay, thousands of years ago, before people had like, wisdom books that teach us how to be. And that has brought a lot of good into the world, I will say, but I'm not going to go, I'm not going to diss anyone who believes certain things. But if there was none of this wisdom that the humans have had, what can nature show us about the reality of life? Yeah.
I like what you said about gardening being, that life cycle, and that gardens go through. And I often think no matter what style of garden anyone has, whether it's a style at all, and whatever, doesn't matter what plants are in the garden, that connection to nature and just observing that, I think, has a huge impact on people who call themselves gardeners and can help solve life's problems. It can help build resilience. It can help create understanding. And yeah, you don't need to get it from a book. You don't need to get it from going somewhere once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because when you say going somewhere once a week, I saw a psychologist when I was really struggling with anxiety and depression. And I would go back regularly, like they'd be like, okay, you've got all the tools, you're doing really well. And I'd go back, regularly once a year or something when I was like, in a bit of a funk. And they would always come back, and it frustrated me because like, you've got the tools. And what were the tools? They were like, are you sleeping well enough? Are you eating good food? Are you, drinking lots of water? Are you spending time outside? And it was like, oh yeah, hang on, no, I haven't been. I've been a
Yeah.
bit, absorbed or on my phone or
Do your
like
doom scrolling.
Yeah. and once I implemented those things, I felt better.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so there is such a place for clinical help. Definitely. I'm not saying, don't. But it was just so interesting for me that eventually I went, okay, when I was feeling like that, I go, all right, well, what would they say? All right, I better go outside. And I love exercising outside as well. Exercise. But being in nature, and you have that immediate feeling, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of that it's working or it's helping.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's I think we'll get better in conventional medicine at prescribing getting outside. It's sort of starting to creep in now, but I feel like gardeners consciously or subconsciously already know that it's it can be really healing in some ways, but in some ways, like I've said to you earlier, I'm like, I go into a garden and all I see is weeds and things that need to do, or my back injury, stuffed a certain career trajectory that I was on, and it's not perfect.
No,
it's not perfect.
No.
But again, it teaches you, in a cycle of 12 months, it can sort of teach you the cycle of a human life, which is can be more than 12 months.
And gardeners, I've found, especially this year, are incredible people. Like the qualities of people that I've come, how do I describe it?
Yeah, I really wanted to, you've sort of answered it in different parts along the way, but because it's the only industry I've ever known, and I've met some amazing people. Some are close friends, or I've just met some people a couple of times.
Yeah.
But I just think on the whole, it's such a wonderful world of the horticulture and gardening world.
Yeah.
And I have wondered, if there's any similarities or differences you've noticed coming from different parts, from your different areas.
Yeah. Definitely. They're just so, I don't know how, and I come home after doing podcasts and talking to my husband going, this person is just so incredible. And I don't know if it's the person or the garden or the people interacting with gardens. It's almost like we know the secret to life.
Yeah.
That's what I think. It's almost like.
So smug.
Yeah. We're in on it. Like, okay, you guys, and look, we might not have the millions of houses and the fancy handbags and that, but we've got our prized plants and
and there's a lot of love.
And there's a lot of love. And I find it hard to put into words.
I agree with you. And that is one of the reasons why I wrote my book, is because I just want people to feel that and get involved in that.
Yeah.
And to give them the tools to get those little successes and achievements.
Yeah.
And then build on it, and then find the world.
Yeah.
You go, that world is cool people.
And what I love also, you can go as niche as you want, or you can go as broad as you want. So you can go and you only collect South African bulbs and that is your world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you can go and, you're all about immersive experiences. There is something for everybody.
So much room.
So much room for all types of people.
All skill levels.
Yeah.
I love transfer. I love when people come into horticulture and gardening like what you have, with a whole different world of backgrounds behind you. And you just bring that creativity and that view of the world.
Yeah.
And apply it. It's
everyone can belong as well.
Yeah.
Because you can belong as a rookie.
Yeah.
Or you can be have all the degrees and people will still, make space for you. So that's what I've loved about the industry, is that, and you can be your weird self and people will still like you.
Oh yeah, totally.
That's what I love. You don't have to fit in. No. Because even if you don't fit in, then you're going to create your own niche group over here, and you'll find someone who loves this thing just as much as you. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a safe place to be a complete freak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This has been a lovely tangent.
Yeah.
We must get to your third.
Oh my gosh,
sentimental
we haven't.
plant.
Far out. Okay. All right. Third is a frangipani tree.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know. The significance of a frangipani tree is, as I said before, when I was 21, I moved to the Northern Territory and worked at the Royal Darwin Hospital. And the landscape there shocked me because this was before social media. We had the internet, but I didn't do a lot of research about what life was like in the tropics, and I moved up in March, was hit with humidity. I was struck by the plants and trees and everything around me and how different it was. And I remember just seeing my first ever frangipani tree and I think I went and I was picking up the flowers off the ground because I just thought they were so beautiful and I'd never seen anything like it. So for me, that was they were really formative years for me in my career, but also as a human. I learned a lot also about nature from First Nations people because a lot of the people that I looked after in hospital were Aboriginal people and a lot of them came from all over the Northern Territory, especially, I worked with a lot of pregnant women, did a lot of birthing and they were so generous in sharing their knowledge and just by way of life, by like being around them and experiencing their culture, that for me, when I see a frangipani tree or a flower, it just takes me back to those days where I, grew as a person and discovered a whole new world.
Yeah. I go into areas outside southeastern Australia and I go, I have no idea about what any of these plants are.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unnerving, but it's also very grounding. Makes you go, you will never know everything.
Yeah.
Girl.
So true.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing those 3 sentimental plants. This is my favorite part that I've been looking forward to doing to you is the quick fire questions.
Okay.
What would you prefer? Wearing in ballet shoes or digging a hole in compacted clay?
Oh, that's the best one I've heard so far.
I'm so pleased because you do the best.
Oh, really?
What would you prefer? And it's been so much pressure.
It's been such a long time since I've worn point shoes.
Because I've seen Centre Stage. I know all about ballet.
Oh, man. Nowadays, I would much prefer to dig in the clay. Yeah. I don't. Look, all the ballet shoes are beautiful, but my God, it's painful. Yeah.
So is digging in compacted clay.
Yeah. And because I had a shoulder reconstruction, I hate digging now. But I think I would still prefer it because of the smell and being outside and all those things. Yeah. So I will say digging in the clay.
All right, cool. Nice.
But 10 points for that one.
Thank you. What's more annoying, a messy house or a messy garden?
Oh my God, that is even better. So I struggle with my messy house because it stays messy if I go outside and clean up the garden. But then if I spend all my time cleaning the house, then the garden's messy. So I live in this state of tension. Which one do I do? Do you know what? I'm going to say a messy garden is worse because I can always shut the doors in my house and you can always put everything that's out and about in the lounge room in a washing basket and hide it away in a bedroom if people come over.
So right.
Whereas a garden is just there on display for all the walkers by.
And the weeds.
And sometimes you feel like saying, I've been really busy. I haven't had time to mow the lawn. Yeah. So
my neighbours have been mowing my nature strip lately. Which is so beautiful and so embarrassing. Yeah. A messy garden is, more annoying for me too.
Yeah.
What is one word or sentence to describe how you feel when you're in the garden?
I'm going to have to go sentence because I struggle just to say one word. Yeah. And I'm going to quickly say something before I answer it because I can't just do one thing. This question has surprised me the most when I've asked people because a lot of people in the beginning were like, calm and exhale. And then Fleur came along and she's like, sometimes, it wasn't relaxing. And I went, actually, I see myself in that. In my own garden, I don't always feel relaxed.
Yeah.
And you might I think what you said before, you can go, oh, I just see all the things that need to do. But being outside in my garden is like for me tuning in and recalibrating to the stuff that really matters. So even if I am in frustration mode or annoyed that the weeds are there, after like 15 minutes of being outside and working, I just have this whole new perspective on life. And I don't know if it's whatever's coming out of the plants or the soil or just, but for me, it's this recalibration and tuning in. Yeah.
I find when I heard Fleur say that, I was like, yeah, hell yeah. Because I think I said something to you about the exhale factor or something from Sandra Swartz. It's like, spoiler alert, the end of Inside Out when Riley has this feeling and it's all the different colours. It's like the mixed emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, oh, yes, nature. Oh, so much work to do.
Two things can be true.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amen. Okay. Who is a person, either from history or living, that you would love to sit down with and listen to their garden stories?
Thought about this one. And I'm going to say Sylvie Guillem. So she's not a gardener. She's actually a ballerina.
Oh.
Yeah, like I idolized her as a girl. So Sylvie is French. She danced at the Paris Opera Ballet and later went over to the Royal Ballet, but she was taken in by Rudolf Nureyev, who danced with Margot Fonteyn. And she was 19 when she was promoted to the top position. And she just had this presence on stage that was incredible. But I've since found out that she had a balcony garden when she was dancing at the Paris Opera Ballet and would go outside and garden as a way to just cope with the pressure of it all.
Oh, you so need to sit down
I
with
know.
her.
And she now, since she danced for a really long time, retired when she was 50, I think. And now she owns an olive orchard.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think in Italy. So, and she's very private, but she's all into like organic farming. She's done a lot with Greenpeace. She's a real activist and environmentalist as well. And so, oh my gosh, I would love to sit down with her because number one, ballet.
Yeah.
But number two, like what was that? Why did she garden in Paris and what did she grow? And I would love to pull all that apart.
You know what?
Yeah.
You need to slide into her DMs.
Yeah. So I don't think she's on social media. She's that private nowadays. But
I have faith that you will find an email address somewhere.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So Sylvie Guillem.
Oh, what a great answer. A plus for them.
Thank you.
All right. Now, last question. What do you prefer? Being interviewed or doing the interviewing?
I prefer interviewing. Yeah. Because it's hard talking about yourself.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, it's so weird.
But this has been good. We just had a conversation today.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sitting down with me today on the Sentimental Gardener podcast, Cass Dowding.
Thank you for having me. But thank you for being my interviewer.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you.
I've really enjoyed it. I really love interviewing people.
You're great at it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
This has been fun.
It has been.
See you out in the garden.
Okay.
All right.
See ya.
Bye. My cup has been filled after speaking with Cass today. I'm struck by her ability to create connection and build rapport with people. And I'll just add on 2 more rapports because that's what she learnt in uni. The way that she looks at gardens and sees the connections between humans and their plants has really clearly been heavily influenced by her career in healthcare. Seeing people as a midwife at their most vulnerable, she manages now to bring out that vulnerability with her guests, to feel safe and to share these stories and to share their feelings. Gardeners and gardening can often be pushed aside as another trade that someone does when they're maybe not smart enough to go to uni. But a lot of us are very emotional, highly sensitive types. And it's very heartwarming to have Cass realise that, but also have the skills to be able to get those feelings and stories out of people and create that safe space. I'm in awe of her determination to turn really rubbish situations into absolute gold. Those couple of years that she had over COVID, where there was so much going on with her family or losing her grandparents and raising young children, she could have taken the option to go deep down the mental health rabbit hole and not come out. But instead, she was so determined to get back out and build a life that fulfilled her and made her succeed and fly and be really healthy and well in doing all of that. I really love people that can pull themselves out of that mental health rabbit hole and make a better life for themselves, but make a better life and attempt to make a better life for those people that are around them. I love this podcast that Cass has created for letting people tell their stories and just listening. So thank you for listening today. Go out, get some sunshine, say hello to some plants, and stay well.